Hello everyone. I hope you guys are doing well. So this is going to be your second lecture. But before starting this second lecture, let's review what we have covered in the very first lecture. So in the very first lecture, we have covered what are the career opportunities you can get if you are really good at C++ language, right? We have also discussed what kind of softwares you can build, what kind of industries and the organization they're looking for C++ developers. The companies I have mentioned, the top companies like Google, Facebook, Amazon, they also work with C++ developer. So overall, we have understood the importance of you know uh, learning C++ and what can motivate us to prepare C++ well. But from today lecture, we will more focus on the programming part. In today's lecture, I'll focus on the lecture planning part and the prerequisites. What kind of softwares you would need in your system so that we can work with C++ very smoothly. And it is very important that we all, I think, I'm going to teach in C section, H section, D section. So I want everyone to be on the same platform. It would be super easy for all of us to catch up if we are going quite fast. Uh, which we will be doing the same in future lectures. I would be expecting you guys to complete some assignment what I'm going to give you, so it will definitely improve your speed as well, overall speed uh, in coding in C++. So without any further ado, let's just start our second lecture, and let's focus on the two things, how we are going to conduct this semester is for C++, and what are those prerequisites that we need for our C++ programming, right? So this is very important thing. So let's look at let's just start with this lecture. Okay, so I think you guys must be able to see a notebook here. So okay. Uh, So our focus is on the lecture planning. Lecture planning, the very first thing would be your lecture planning. We will focus on the prerequisites, but let's first of all, let's focus on the lecture planning. As we all are aware that your classes, all data, your classes and all lectures, all lectures, okay, I think, let me correct it. All lectures, assignments, labs, assignment are going to be conducted on Moodle only, right? So we all are aware about that. I'm hoping that you guys are aware. There is another platform which I'm going to use later on, not for the classes or the lecture or the labs, but for doubt discussion. So for doubts discussion, I'll take our doubt session, live session over MS Team. Okay. So for that, you guys must have that gehu.ac.in type of mail. Probably the ERP people are creating those mail for the students, right? For students, we need that mail. Okay. This is only for those who have already paid the fees. So we are restricted to only deliver the lecture to those who have already paid the fees. So this is what we need, but not now. It will take place. I'll inform you in advance, and this will help us to interact with each and individual student in person, virtually, definitely. Uh, but it will definitely help us to get a very clear picture about what we are heading to. And what I think I'll try my best if I can discuss individual doubt with everyone, so it will help others as well. So this is how we are going to handle our doubt sessions. uh, uh, we are also going to have our assignments. So this is how it's going to be. I'll give you a PDF, or maybe let's say 5 to 10 questions, and you are supposed to submit it. I'll give you a deadline, right? So you are supposed to do it. I'll decide this if I want to do it weekly or for each unit. Okay, I'll decide it later, which one I would prefer. Whichever would be giving good results, I'll do so. But I'll most of the time I'll prefer this, because people actually student need some time to grasp overall concept, so they at least need a proper knowledge of a unit. So it would be great if, but let's find out over the period of time. So this would be there. This discussion would also take place for each unit or weekly. We will decide over the period of time, but right now there is no need to. Okay, so I think there could be some other things as well, but right now these are on the top of my head. Syllabus I have already given on Moodle, right? If you some of you have already downloaded it, I think you must have found out that the syllabus is already there. The second part is we are going to discuss is prerequisites. Okay, so so what does it mean here to have prerequisites in advance? It means before even learning, before even writing a hello program, hello.cpp, or I would say C++ program, right? So I think you guys are not aware about this thing, right? I think, just a second. No, why? I don't know. Okay. Okay. So I think you guys are not aware about this extension, right? So let me explain this. This is used for C++ code. So wherever you are going to write C++ file, you have to give this extension to that file. Okay. So this is important. So even before even writing this code or file, so what do you need? You must have some kind of environment, right? So that this particular program can run on that. So you need, for that you need Linux environment. In that we will use command line. We use command line to run our C++ program, right? So you need that for that. In Windows, you can also do that, but in Windows, you have to separately install some bash tool, something called bash tool in Windows, you need to install some bash tool. Bash tool is something where you can run Linux commands, in Windows bash cmd, right? So this is what you need. But there is another way on Windows. If you want to use Linux, there is another way. On Mac, you can directly use that, or you can install virtually. I'll discuss those things in the second, maybe in the next lecture. So in Windows, if you don't want to use bash tool, which sometimes fails in my understanding, sometimes it is not really that well. So in Windows, there is another way. What you do, you install a virtual box. I think the people who have already worked on Linux, they must be aware about this. This is provided by Oracle. VirtualBox, and then the another thing, the very first thing you need there, and second thing you need a ISO image. ISO image of any Linux based distribution. So any Linux based distribution. Generally, they are free. I'll discuss those in detail in the next lecture. But in this lecture, I'm not going to focus on that because my focus is to give you clear picture of uh, like how we are going to handle our like future lectures. So you need any Linux based distribution ISO image. So in that case, let's say you have Ubuntu, Debian, Kali, and Fedora, I think. Fedora, I'm not sure about this. Red Hat, and many more, and many more. So there are a lot of distribution, Linux-based distribution, free of cost. I think there are some paid versions as well, but you don't need those right now. Simply, you just go with the free versions. Ubuntu or Debian or Kali is for cybersecurity. It is very recent use of wherever you are using some hacking or such kind of cybersecurity. People usually prefer Kali, and this is the overall scenario. So this is prerequisites. It means even if we are going to write simple C++ program, we need such an environment. So my recommendation for all of you is you don't need to install this bash tool because I have tried this in past and sometime it fails. So don't go with that. What you can do, if you don't want to, if you want to have your Windows as well as your Linux, so it is always better that if you are not going to work a lot on Linux, it is better to install it in a virtual box. If you are going to listen to me very carefully, if you want to install uh, if you are going to work a lot on Ubuntu, then it is better you install Linux in a dual mode. It means even when you start the system, you have a choice to enter in one of the operating systems. But when you are going to use VirtualBox, it means you are virtually installing something, right? So if you are in a window, so how it would look like, you would be in Windows. You have to log in as usual in your Windows. W stands for Windows, let's say. And then you need a virtual box in your Windows. So this is another software you have to install. This is virtual box. Okay. It is provided by Oracle. It is free of cost. And then after that, you need ISO image here ISO. This is the ISO image of any OS. You can run as many as your machine can support, but usually you can do as many as you want because you are going to install uh, that particular OS virtually. You have the control to decide how much RAM you want to give to that particular OS. So if you want to install Ubuntu, it means you are going to decide the hard disk partition and the RAM and a lot of other things as well. So you have the control. Usually in present ISO images and the virtual box, you can even allocate memory dynamically. It means you don't need to fix a memory portion in your system. So it will, you know, if the lot of memory is going to be used, then it will look, it will find out that memory. Otherwise, if you stick to the static plan, it means even if you are not going to use, that memory will always be located for that Ubuntu partition in your system. Okay. For example, if you have 256 GB C drive, so when you are going to install this ISO image using this virtual box, it will ask you for how much RAM you want. For example, of your Windows system, if you have 8 GB RAM, so you can assign any like 2 GB, 4 GB, as you like. Okay. And later on, definitely you can uninstall or delete this ISO image from your virtual box. So it's not a big issue. Hard disk, it will also generally, it will ask you for 10 GB initially, but you can increase it like 50 GB if you have that much free allocated memory. So it is up to you. So it is more or less in your control. It depends on what kind of work you are going to perform. I will give more detail in the next lecture how to install this very carefully so it will not corrupt your files. It is also very important. So, but right now you need to understand that to even you need a Linux based. By the way, there is another thing I should tell you, that you can even run a C++ program in Windows without even Linux. There is no problem with that, but it is not as easy as it is in Linux. Okay, I have used both the Windows command prompt, right? But it is not that supportive. You cannot install the supportive libraries that easily. If you are using Linux, then support libraries is very easy. Updation is very easy, super easy. You don't need to, you know, get into a lot of detail, but there are some direct command to install or update your libraries. It would be super easy. There is another option. If you want to go for that, I would not suggest you. There are some IDE. Okay, this is something where you can, it provides you some GUI. You will learn a lot about this in future when you will be coding. But when For example, there is a famous software called Code Block. Okay, this is where you can run your C++ program in the Windows itself. So this is the software, okay, you need to install in your Windows, and it will be super easy for you to even run this code. But why I have not suggested it for you guys, even though it seems the easiest solution for all of us. Because eventually, let's say in 6th semester or 7th semester, when the companies are going to hire you, they don't focus on this part. They do focus on the Linux part. They give you some kind of environment where you use command line, where you use a lot of Linux commands to run any program, not just the C++ program. So that's why I thought it is better if I can give you a good head start over Linux. So it is the time, and I think some of you must already being aware about Linux environment and already worked in this environment. So I think there wouldn't be so much problem for those. But for those who haven't worked on Linux, it would be little difficult in starting, but definitely one thing I can say by confidence that you would enjoy working in Ubuntu. It is very, very fast, very, very safe. Ubuntu Linux based systems are usually very fast and they are quite safe, and they are usually virus free. And you would know by your experience when you will be working. And the way I am telling you to work with the Windows and use VirtualBox and ISO image, for those who haven't worked on Linux based distributions, it would also be super easy for them. And I'll make sure I'll make my lectures in such a way that it would be super easy for you guys as well. So this is about the main points about today's lecture. I think let me remind myself if I forgot something to mention. So in this whole scenario, I mention I do mention 2 points. The very first software, I'm talking about the Windows students, the students having Windows system. So first you need to install VirtualBox. It is free. Second, you need to install ISO image of any Linux based distribution. Any distribution, right? I have mentioned some of them here. Ubuntu, Debian, Kali, Red Hat, and there are many more. Okay, so you need to install. I would suggest not to buy any new operating system right now if you are not familiar with. So go for the free. Uh, go for free softwares. Okay, as of now, and this is the main what I was supposed to cover. I decided to cover in today's lecture. Let me check lecture plan. Moodle, I think we all are aware that we are working on Moodle. I'll give you practicals, your assignments, and everything on Moodle itself for the doubt discussion. You guys need to connect with your graphic era uh, ID or Microsoft Team. I'll tell you how to do that. Right now, you don't need to worry about that. Assignments I'll give you in PDF format and with the deadline. So you might have a deadline for a week, or for after each unit I'll take this assignment. Let time decide how it's going to be. The prerequisite uh, of even executing any single program, uh, you need even if you have ID, it is good. You can run your code in ID. If you have, you can run even your code in Windows command as well. But the problem with this, you cannot update it very easily. You cannot install supportive libraries very easily. Linux is much better in that. Why I haven't suggested you this code block use, because the companies they are going to hire in 6th semester or 7th semester, they don't want the student to use any ID, not just this, any ID. They want their students to be very comfortable with command line tools or commands which you usually prefer in Linux, because most of the HackerEarth and HackerRank environment is such that you need to work upon the command lines and the Linux commands usually. So this is the whole scenario about that. If you want to work on Windows, there is a tool, VAS tool, you can install and directly run the command. But it sometimes fails in my experience because I have used it. There is another option. I think there is another option I have not mentioned here. For those who want to work a lot on Ubuntu, they should not go with that. Or if you are going with that, then choose good HDD and good RAM. Okay, if you are going to, then choose to install high. It would work well as well. If you want to I would say you go for dual mode installation, because in that scenario you only use one OS at a time. But in virtual, it is different. You can choose as many OS as long as your machine is supporting, it is fine. You can say two or more than two would work fine. OS, right? This is the structure how we are going to. First we need a window, then we need to install. This is the very first thing. It is general login in your Windows. You need to install VirtualBox. Third, you need to download. First of all you definitely you need to download these softwares. I'll give you the link in the next lecture. Then you need to install this ISO image using this VirtualBox. Then this is the ISO image Ubuntu. Then you can run your Linux commands over C++ program. Okay, little messy. In the next lecture I'll try to keep things separate. This time it is little messy. This is the this is what we have discussed. These are the prerequisites, and here we have the lecture planning. So guys, for now this is the end of today's lecture. From tomorrow we will focus on, you know, your system setup. Next lecture, let's say 1 second, you need for next lecture you need system setup. I'll tell you how to set up your system, create an environment, and installation of required softwares, right? So in the next lecture we will focus on this part. This is the next lecture. Okay, so guys, thank you so much for this lecture, and let's wait for the next lecture. Okay, thank you so much guys.